So at the finish of the match, he kicks out of several finishing moves each way.
Yeah, it's Kennedy and or Anderson and Morgan both basically kicked out of everything in that match. So anyway, because we're well over time apparently, basically let me cut ahead. We got to talk about Jared Angle still, but the main event basically ends with Kennedy getting a roll up on Morgan. And which I don't have a huge problem with. It was like, boom, okay, Kennedy's Anderson's number one contender to the title. End of the pay-per-view, only not really, because Eric Bischoff then comes out and says, all right, Kennedy, Anderson, you're the Kennedy, you're the number one contender, and you're gonna get your title match, but you're not gonna get it whenever, you're gonna get it right now. Shocking.
What the?
Oh, man.
Can you tell this is take two?
Oh, man.
At any rate, so Jeff Hardy comes out wearing a suit and tie with his affair. He's not in ripped up pants. He's not looking like he's ready to wrestle. They make a point of commenting that he's just coming in to do a hit job, basically. He starts smoking on the ring, takes a cigarette, lights it, and starts smoking. He puts out, he gets in the ring, he's like, yeah, whatever, this Anderson guy. I think it was just a cigarette, but I don't know for sure. And Hardy hits the Twist of Fate on Anderson. 1, 2, nope, kicks out. Jeff Hardy's like, what the heck? That doesn't happen. I know this used to be a signature move, but now it's a finisher. I'm gonna pick you up again. Twist of Fate. Kicks out again. And to be briefer than the original take, basically what happened was a massive clusterfuck of different TNA mortal guys. Mick Foley, Ric Flair came out. Tons of people running around, Eric Bischoff, just stuff going outside the ring. At one point, Hardy gets hit with a carbon footprint and then rolled back in the ring, and Anderson goes for the pin, but Jeff Hardy kicks out. It comes to the point where basically Eric Bischoff is in the ring with Anderson. He holds up the chair. I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna bring you down. And then Anderson finally realizes he's supposed to turn around. It does so. Kicks Bischoff in the stomach and it hits his mic check. Bischoff sells it, rolls out of the ring, and then Jeff Hardy's like, aha, now Twist of Fate on you again. He goes up for the Swanton, hits the Swanton bomb. 1, 2, nope.
What is this?
Kennedy, apparently, Vince Russo thinks, or whoever booked this match, I don't want to say Vince Russo, I don't know, but whoever booked it
probably was.
Thought that Mr. Anderson is Brock Lesnar.
Vince Russo.
Maybe it might. It could have been anyone. I know it wasn't Tommy Dreamer. He wasn't at the show apparently.
There you go.
But at any rate,
He would have been like, dude, he can't kick out of that. And they would have been like, deaf ears.
they would have been like, shut up, Tommy Dreamer. Go eat a sandwich. And then Matt Hardy's like, I'm on it. Anyway, I can start it for a second.
Yeah, Kip
already beat up his friend.
Sandwich in the back.
Kip Gaines making that the sandwich. He's fucking idiot. I think that, yeah, TNA will lose weight in that hurry because they're going to pay catering like 5 times as much. At any rate, so Jeff Hardy, the thinner of the two brothers, hits a swanton. Kennedy kicks out. Kennedy, at some point after that, gets in a position where he hits the mic check, and then 1, 2, 3, that's the end of the match. And your new champion with the hideous Power Rangers purple belt is Mr. Anderson.
I hate that belt.
Yeah.
I hate that Kennedy.
I bet Anderson changes the belt.
Maybe
It will look like a gigantic microphone trophy.
Oh man. Eric, that would be cool. Eric Young has, this could be the start of ever having their own belt, which would be interesting and expensive. But then again,
I would have a
perfectly
Ninja
happy to
Turtles
piss away
belt.
money, so-
TNA just like TNA uses money like coal on an old train from like the 20s.
Exactly.
They're shuffling in a big fuck.
Burn it! We have too much! We have too much money!
Profit, no life.
I'm concerned about these buy rates. No! More money, spend it! Anyway.
Like that's how if you look at it, this.
Hire Katie Lee Burchill right now! Anyway,
Leave her alone, she's awesome.
she's awesome, but there's no reason to hire her. Anyway.
I'm just glad he survived 17.
Let's hire someone from the real world. Anyway, well,
Yeah, there
wait.
you
See,
go.
that's worked out well. The real world's been the one source of good wrestlers in reality TV.
They should hire
They've gone to
everyone
every
from
other.
the
They've
real
gone to
world.
Jersey Shore. Maybe that's what it is. They're trying to get Miz money. They're like, let's try to get
Just throwing it at the wall.
I
They're
will
like, maybe if we get the situation,
How about
then
someone from True Life?
like, they're like, well, the guy from Iron Chef could come on, and he might be a big deal. Anyway,
oh my god.
I digress.
That's fair.
What about that girl from
Winner, winner,
16
chicken
Brothers?
dinner.
At any rate, so Anderson wins the belt. I'm going to do it faster than we did last time because we ran out of time, but Anderson cuts a promo in the ring during which he falls over a couple times. There's a controversy, or not controversy, there's a problem with it. He invites a fan into the ring and security doesn't quite let the fan get in, and then Mike Tenay and Taz are confused about why there's a fan in the ring, and there was some confusion about that. And finally, Anderson gets the spotlight. He starts cutting his promo on the mic. He stumbles and falls over and can't get the lines out, and he's bleeding from his head pretty badly. I don't know if he was selling the fact that he just had a match, or if he was legitimately just like totally maybe reconcussed or something. I don't know, but he was pretty messed up looking, and he couldn't get the promo out right. Finally, he got it out. He did his pose on the thing, and the show came to the end with Mike Tenay commenting that the era of the asshole has begun, which is wonderful. So that was the end of the show.
Is that their age of origin?
That's their age of origin. He is the age of the asshole.
Oh, great.
Taz burst out laughing when he said it, actually, so I thought it was funny. Because the last sound you heard on the pay-per-view was Kenny's music playing, Taz laughing his ass off because of that line. So, the one match I did forget, we did leave out something as it turns out, was Jeff Jarrett versus Kurt Angle. This was an MMA match, supposedly, although...
Why do they keep trying this?
I don't know. I really don't know. They decided to go with it, though, and Jeff Jarrett made a point of being like, this is an exhibition, not a match, so there's only going to be, like, wrestling moves you can't, like, strike, which I guess, I'm not familiar with MMA, I'll be honest, but whatever, they ran an MMA match.
I've honestly never seen an MMA match where you're not allowed to punch people.
Well, this was
so why didn't he just have? We're gonna have a wrestling match.
This was the.
Why didn't they do that?
Oh, you know what? I'm glad we got a second take because I forgot.
I didn't see it, so
I get to mention the thing that I forgot the first time. This is awesome. Basically, what happened in this match was Kurt Angle kind of started talking. He'd lay on the ground, he was yawning, and like Jarrett wouldn't like try to grab him because he was afraid he was going to get rolled up or something, or however you win MMA matches. And Kurt Angle basically like toys with him for 2 rounds, and Jarrett's like in the corner, like, oh man, I can't take this guy. So of course, Jarrett being the heel he is, he's going to be the one who strikes. But first, this is what I forgot. They had to explain this to us. Again, the commentators had to explain what was going on. Gunner and Murphy rubbed some stuff on Jarrett's upper bicep. I don't know what it was. It was some shiny stuff, and basically when Angle grappled him, it got in his eyes, and Angle was blinded.
Oh, okay.
And they explained, oh, you rubbed some blinding substance on his arm, which I imagine is similar to grape drink.
I'm hoping it's Clorox bleach.
Yeah, and at any rate, so yeah, maybe we can have another great one of those blind matches like TNA did a couple years ago with Chris Harris.
At what point in wrestling do you try to like ruin people's entire life by making them blind forever?
At what point do you try to ruin anyone's career by naming them Brave Walkers?
That's true.
Speaking of
And that's a story for another time.
blindness matches, Chris Harris versus Cowboy James Storm. Look it up; it's fantastic.
Oh, yeah,
James Storm is
awesome.
It's a tethered match. I forget what those are called.
I watched this pay-per-view.
Inside, yeah, it was a good pay-per-view except for that match. Although Jack Moore did like a friggin' like moonsault off something pretty cool. But at any rate, that was like 4 years ago. Something Dr. Herbert was talking about. We had Jeff Jarrett get blind Kurt Angle, and then of course Jeff Jarrett being the heel punches Angle in the face. The ref calls it a DQ. Now here's the cool thing. Not Jarrett or Angle's fault, more production follies. I'm sure this will make it onto Botchamania. Basically, as Jarrett punches Angle, they switch to close-up angle on Anderson as he gets the mat, and you see him pick up a razor blade and do this. Right across. And then start bleeding from it, and then toss the blade away, and then go, oh, I'm bleeding! And then they change the camera angle, like, well after this has happened, and you can... Like, you sometimes see, like, really, like, when you watch on replay, like, oh man, look, he's bleeding there, I caught him. This was, like, literally, lies on the ground, and this was as fast as it happened. He did pull his hair.
Yeah,
Why doesn't the production or the cameraman know this is going to happen?
What happened?
I mean, they need to say, okay, at this point, he's going to do this. Show Jarrett for a second. Show the commentators. Show the ground.
Fans. Show the fans.
Show the fans.
I mean, it seemed like up to this point in the pay-per-view, the Teenage Production was really good at not showing stuff going on in the ring, so I thought that they would be on top of this, but as it turns out, no. I don't know what's up with TNA Productions, but I've been watching this company, even when I was a huge fan of this company, they've always had terrible production values of pay-per-views. They just don't, I guess maybe they're just used to doing tape and they don't understand, but they cannot do live shows. I was unfortunately watching when they had Awesome Kong debut and she started wearing stuff on her before and she went over and her was fully exposed. They don't seem to have that, and maybe it's just because they're a smaller company than WWE, but they don't seem to have that ability to kind of cut away and not show stuff or to show things correctly, and they have all sorts of technical problems. I remember like a few pay-per-views ago they were playing it. Oh, that's another thing. During this one, the movies they were playing, like little promos, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but you could hear everything going on in the ring in the crowd while they were showing the videos. So you heard all the fans going like, woo, like at some points they did drown out parts of the promos.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they do that to kind of show reaction.
Yeah, it might have been an intentional thing, it might have been, I don't know. It happens so often that I think it might have been intentional. I don't say I just didn't like it, but it was worth noting, I thought, considering all the other production stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just there was a lot of mistakes in that capacity in the show, and it was sloppy, and the whole thing is this whole pay-per-view was sloppy. The ending was atrocious. The matches were full of kind of messed up spots and botches, and people were just, like, it looked like, the thing is, everyone has the whole thing of going like, oh man, TNA can't compete with WWE because they're not on the same level. And yeah, that's true, and I don't hold TNA to the same standards I do WWE, but I hold them to some standards, and my god, they just like, it wasn't even the B show, it was like the D show. They weren't even, like, they were completely friggin', it was so pathetic. Like, that's the word I would use to describe it. It was pathetic. Like, it didn't even look like they belonged on TV. It looked like, I watched the ROH pay-per-views. They're pretty damn good, and you'll have some moments where you're like, oh shoot, they messed up the camera because like the camera got hit and they only got like 3 different cameras or whatever. But they seem to manage to not do stuff like show Kurt Angle blading and friggin' stuff like that. It was just, I don't think,
I mean, I don't know.
Video production's not that hard,
No,
guys.
I
I know how to use Windows Movie Maker, and apparently...
Wrestling, you know, beyond that, wrestling doesn't need to be produced well for you to enjoy it. I mean, I've watched tons of bootleg videos, or not, you know, old, original ECW, where you're like, I'm not sure if I can see the ring because of the, you know, quality of money they spent on the cameras.
Sure.
But it is worth it, you know what I mean? And if the wrestling's there, or the booking's there, or the show's there, then it doesn't matter. You know what? You don't want to show that with Kurt Angle. But if you're messing up a theme song, you can't ruin the surprise by doing something like having the screen say like Matt Hardy before Matt Hardy comes out.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty ridiculous.
The mystery point that usually all knew.
And that's the other thing too. Yeah, with that was that they literally said it's going to be a Hardy to RVD, and then immediately.
Why do we need a hint for that?
Well, because as you may know, TNA thinks their fans are brutal morons. I'm not saying TNA fans are morons or not, but TNA thinks their fans are morons. If you listen to Eric Bischoff talk, he literally has said our fans are morons. Like, he says this. It's not a secret.
But you don't need that. Their fans are going to know it's a Hardy.
But they don't think they do.
I mean, I don't know if he's trying to tease you.
It's almost
the smart people are saying, okay, maybe Matt Hardy will be on the pay-per-view tonight.
Right.
Actually, to be honest with you, I wasn't even thinking about it anymore because I was at the point where I thought that Matt Hardy was like, yeah, I'm going to be hired on all his videos, and like TNA was like, we're not going to give this guy money.
Well,
but I mean, you assume eventually he's going to be on there.
Too much credit.
But I wasn't. Maybe everyone in the world figured out that his opponent was going to be Matt Hardy.
They're paying him with gift cards to Casa Bonita.
TNA, I will work for gift cards to Casa Bonita for
It's
you.
not anything that
But I won't wrestle. I'm not.
Addressing your point, though, I agree. And if the in-ring work and the product quality is to a certain level where you're like, I'm willing to put up with that production, that's one thing. And generally speaking, if TNA messes something up, I don't care. It's just they messed so much up in one show. And this was apparently, I didn't know it was their big show because they had the big title change in it. They didn't advertise the title change, and here's the thing.
Even the title change had to come soon with Jeff Hardy.
Well, you would think though that they would do it. I mean, I guess, but I mean, you would think they would do it the next pay-per-view or something, or at least on Impact. I mean, it was just very strange.
Well, they want you to wonder if the title's going to change every episode.
I get it. Here's the thing, though. I mean, like people. I know people will make this argument if they do is that Money in the Bank. That's a surprise title change, and yeah, and that's one of those cool things where the idea is you don't know when the title's going to change, so you got to watch every show because it might be the one where it catches in, and that's cool. But this wasn't that because TNA doesn't invest in their champions like WWE does. WWE has 2 world champions, and they have basically like, okay, you get this many. You might be a transitional champion. You get like a few months, and then usually I think the average title is probably around 4 or 5 months. Is that fair? And there's like a change more or less every sometimes less, sometimes more. But with TNA, they've got their one champion, and for the last year, they've spent building up the They angle, which turned into the Immortal angle, which turned into Jeff Hardy being their top heel. And then your whole point, the way you sell a wrestling show, and it just drives me nuts because I know this, why do I know this and they don't, is that you want people to be like, I want to watch this show because I want to see the bad guy get beat by the good guy and to prevail over evil or whatever. And that's one reason why most people watch it. Not everyone, but that's storytelling. That's why if you're watching a story, you want to generally see some kind of logical conclusion. And what TNA does instead is they think that surprises are the key to keeping people watching. And they're right, they are, like a plot twist at the end of an episode of something, yeah. But they don't understand that at some point there has to be a logical conclusion to your story, because they just want to keep going forever. And I understand that. I've read Eric Bischoff's book. That's his entire booking philosophy. I really like it. It makes a lot of sense. It worked for Nitro for a long period of time, but
Work being the key word.
Yeah,
Past tense.
it's not a formula. That's the thing. Wrestling is well. That's the thing. I was gonna say wrestling is a formula, but it is. Good guy beats bad guy. It is
You
formula.
need the Immortal. You can't have the Thea angle go on for so long and then have Immortal lose in like 4 months. You know what I mean? They have to.
That's the thing.
I don't expect Immortal to be gone for quite a while now.
Yeah.
They have all the titles except for the world title, and
Right.
it's going to be interesting to
This
see
feels
Jeff
like
Hardy
the
get
main
rigged
event
off by
of
Eric
all.
Bischoff.
Well, that's the thing too. They've done the same angle like 9 times because that's all they know how to book. And it's weird because TNA's booking team has changed, but they keep I don't know if it's Dixie Carter or what, but they keep doing the same angle over and over again. They do the big heel group, NWO gets beaten by the little guys, only they mess it up and they don't quite capitalize on it, and it always peters out in the end, which is what I see coming again. This petering out, and not having a big payoff because they don't see. Because that's the thing. I'll say this: they don't seem to understand that at some point there needs to be a big payoff. And they're never going to make that big leap where they're going to.
Then the fans feel satisfied and they want to order the next thing because of that too.
Exactly. Like here's the thing. Like John. Okay, here we go. We had. Here's an example. We had at SummerSlam. SummerSlam. We ordered. We paid for SummerSlam. It was a really exciting thing. All the people from the store here at
Game Underground
in Framingham, Massachusetts, where they buy and sell used games. Anyway,
Okay.
we had this big pay-per-view party because it was really exciting, and Nexus versus WWE team came to a head. There was a huge build up to it, and someone won. There was a logical finish to that match. It wasn't a great finish with Cena killing everyone, but it was a finish to the match. And actually, I could even argue that it was a good finish. And that made sense. And then the next night on Raw, Nexus was like, "Oh, you thought we were dead, did you? Well, we're still around, and blah 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 blah. And here's the new plot twist, and we're gonna keep going with the angle. It's just we concluded the last part of the arc. Storytelling. There's a reason books come in chapters. It's because people don't want to constantly be dragged along. They want to see logical. They want to have an overarching story, but they want to have each section run its course in the way it's designed to do. And
Orson Welles once said, he's like, if you want a happy ending, it depends where you put stop the story. I mean, it's like you can't continue on, go on, go on. I mean, you can, but you need to do it strategically. You can't be like, oh yeah, well, this is gonna happen now, bum, bum, bum.
I remember when the Harry Potter books ended. I know a lot of people who were like, "Oh man, I'm
no
so
spoilers,
sad."
I will kill you.
I won't say it, but they're like, "Oh man, I wish the Harry Potter books could keep going and we could see what happens after the story comes to its finish." And frankly, the story ended. They had a logical ending. I don't need to see 30 years down the line where Hermione gets a job as a dentist or some shit. I don't want to read that book. If you want to do Harry Potter, the next generation. These are new wizards, and it's not related, but it's still the same magical world. I'm right on, and that could be something in wrestling too, where you're like, okay, this story ran its course, but how about this new take on the similar themes that we've been working with? But they really don't get it, and it's a real shame.
I hope that there's a whole botchamania just on this pay-per-view.
Oh, I guarantee you there will be. I guarantee there will be.
I would say that you're giving the pay-per-view a pretty bad thumbs down here.
I would say that if you had the choice between watching Genesis, the TNA pay-per-view, and watching a Sega Genesis console sit on the table, go with the Sega Genesis. It's just sitting there. It's not doing anyone any harm.
It's not hurting anyone's
It's not
career.
hurting anyone, whereas TNA hurts to watch.
So you're
It
giving
pains me.
You're giving 5 Katie Vicks out of 5?
Here's the other thing. It was a mediocre pay-per-view. It was not a bad pay-per-view. It was a mediocre pay-per-view that was made terrible by a whole bunch of other problems that just piled on top of one another. It could have easily been a forgettable mediocre pay-per-view. I would have forgotten in a week, and now I'm going to remember it as one of the worst sour tastes in my mouth that TNA has put there in a long time. And TNA, stop putting things in my mouth I don't appreciate.
I feel like you gotta feel like an animal. You have to take Vince Russo outside and shove his face in the
I wouldn't. You can't blame. You don't. You're not there. You don't know.
I don't know if
it's funny you
Russo.
say that because I literally said it the other day to someone. I can't even blame TNA anymore because it's like a dog that pisses on the rug. You just expect it to do it, and it's too. You don't.
One day maybe they'll get it right and it'll surprise us. But if you like what we're doing here, I would definitely subscribe to our channel. Come down to our store in Framingham. Hang out with us on a Monday. Talk wrestling with us. Give us your own opinion. Maybe you'll end up on the show like these guys. But guys, keep tuning in and check back soon for more reviews, more discussion on GU Wrestling. Yep.
And the best of
Yeah, second take.
This is that.